There are so many people that have misdemeanors on their record that stop them from being able to get a good job, or that stop them from being able to progress in their employment. And previously, our Expungement Act really didn't have a lot to it. The charges had to have been either dismissed or null pros, meaning that the prosecutor dropped them. And so it created this inequity for people with both felonies and misdemeanors, where they weren't able to expunge charges if they led to some part of the process. This act isn't perfect. There are still some quirks for people. You could probably go back and find a local story of a guy who had an ironclad alibi but was accused of murder. Well, that's a violent crime, so he still can't expunge. This doesn't fix that. But what it does is kind of open the courthouse doors for people that made minor mistakes, made misdemeanor level mistakes that are impacting their ability to move forward in their lives. We're all better than the worst thing we've ever done. We've all done something stupid. A lot of us did stupid things when we were young. This allows people who have youthful convictions to remove those from their record and move forward with their lives without that mark on their history. In Madison County, it's got to be in the thousands, if not tens of thousands. I mean, you're talking people who got an open container charge at a college party 20 years ago, and it's impacting them. You're talking about minor level possession of marijuana convictions that people might have gotten in college or in their 20s. That's really what I think we're going to see a lot of with this are those kinds of low level misdemeanor charges that still impact their ability, in our community to get a security clearance. Having something like a misdemeanor marijuana possession charge from when you were 22 might very well impact your ability to get a good job on Redstone Arsenal and get the clearance you need to do that. Being able to expunge those can open some doors. The other thing that kind of gets buried in the Redeemer Act that interests me as a poverty lawyer is that previously you had to pay the filing fee for an expungement. So you walk into legal aid, I'm free. You don't pay me anything. But the filing fee was $300, and it was a filing fee that you could not waive under Alabama law. For anything else, I can file a free divorce with what's called an affidavit of substantial hardship. In federal court, we can proceed in forma pauperis, they go in Latin, but I can file a free bankruptcy. I do those two things every single day, but I couldn't file an expungement for free. It carried a $300 charge no matter what. The Redeemer Act waives that. It allows it to fall under the affidavit of hardship. So for most people who are sitting, near the poverty level, we're going to be able to get them an expungement for free.
Oh my God.
My experience is a little bit skewed because I'm a poverty lawyer. So I don't see the full spectrum of people. People who can hire a lawyer generally don't walk in our door. But the expungements that I have filed so far have been for things like women with a high school education that want to work in a daycare, but they have, a low level charge from when they were young that's impacting their ability to get it. Believe it or not, a lot of the Alabama professional licenses to be things like a massage therapist, to be a barber, you can't have certain criminal charges if you want to do those things. And in some cases, having a charge, even if it's not a conviction, is enough to stop you from getting your license to cut hair, which was something that fascinated me when expungements started to open up, how many clients came in with that. Folks who may want to go into nursing, having that, open container charge or that marijuana charge from when you were young and dumb can impact your ability to go into that career in your 30s. So that's where we anticipate we're going to see a lot of this, is folks who are needing that expungement to be able to move forward in their careers. Stuff most people don't think about. I mean, it's incredible to me when the act was first passed, how many kind of sticking points it had. It was better than the nothing we had before, but a lot of the sticking points in it, again, you get people the gentleman who was accused of murder, and I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. I'll find it if you want me to. But he was accused of murder. He was working in a school outside Atlanta doing construction. So there's a million passes of his badge and him on all these cameras. He has the most ironclad alibi you'll ever find. But because he chose not to make the state go through a trial to render him not guilty, they dropped the charges instead. He still can't expunge that charge to this day. This doesn't fix that loophole.
So even with this Redeemer Act, it still wouldn't.
Even with the Redeemer Act, it doesn't fix that particular problem. I do think now the Redeemer Act does say that if that gentleman went and got a pardon, you can now use the pardon to expunge the charges. A pardon in and of itself isn't an expungement. You can now use the pardon to file an expungement. And so this opens that door, but you're still talking about people having to file for a pardon on some of these violent felonies that even if the charges were dropped, we find out it wasn't you, that hole's still open. If you want to make sure that, it goes into effect in July. So we can't file under it quite yet. There are some steps people can start taking if they know that they want to take advantage of getting an expungement in July. One of the log jams in the process right now is that you have to have a fingerprint card that comes out of the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. And because of COVID, it has been really hard for people to go into agencies in person and get that fingerprint card. So what I've been telling clients, as this has started hitting the news and people are calling and saying, hey, Holly, you told me last year you couldn't expunge my conviction and we knew this was coming in the pipeline. I've told people to go ahead and start looking at getting that ALEA fingerprint card. It's on ALEA's website, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Their whole expungement toolkit is on their website too. The forms you can use to do it on your own if you want to. But getting that fingerprint card may take you a couple of weeks of waiting in line at a government office to go get the right version of it. And so I'm telling people to go ahead and be prepared for that. If you are not a low income individual, the filing fee for an expungement will unfortunately increase to $500 when this law passes. And so if you are someone who is of a higher income bracket, if you're not living at the poverty line, and you have an expungible charge, file before July. Otherwise, be prepared and start looking